Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Be Free podcast. I have the beautiful Eimear Zone with me today, and really great subject that I know that many people are struggling with right now. We're going to be having a look at boundaries. And when I reached out to a beautiful network of ladies and said, I'm looking for someone to help with boundaries, everyone came back and said, you need to speak to Eimear. So hence I reached out to her and here you are. So welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. So excited for today.
Thank you. So Eimear, do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are, a little intro for the listeners or watchers?
Yeah, so I am a mindset and confidence coach, and I predominantly work with ambitious women who are looking to sort of overcome self-doubt and build that confidence to help them achieve what they really want to achieve in life so they can really live at their maximum potential. And I'm also an author. I have a book called The Little Book of Good Enough. I'm working on a second book at the moment. And I also am a course creator and have a course called The Elegant No, which is very much on the topic that we're going to be speaking about today, which is all about boundaries and being able to own your no and deliver it with ease and confidence where you need to. So that's me.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, the book title itself just speaks to many. I know so many women struggle with that feeling of being good enough. And then, yeah, the elegant no. I like the way you've put that. I think that that can be really supportive and kind of reframing it from this really horrible, thing that we have to do, feel like we're letting people down. You've got so much wisdom in so many areas, and I know, as I say, so many of our listeners struggle with your area of expertise. But when I was reading through your website, I'm just going to read this here because I know this is something that I really resonated with. And I kind of used to feel intimidated by this question as a housewife before, and it's that question of, so what do you do? And I remember that feeling myself and, from before, but, do you want to tell, how did that come about for you? Because obviously you have this incredible, career.
Well, I think it used to be a bit of a panic-inducing question when, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I had a husband. Well, I still have him, but at the time he traveled a lot. So I was very much like a single parent. And the idea of, what do you do was, being a stay-at-home mom wasn't good enough. That wasn't an answer that really worked for me. And I think for some people, that answer is just fine to say, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I love it. For me, I didn't. And that's a really unpopular and uncomfortable thing to say. What's wrong with you? So what do you do is something that I began to, get very, very uncomfortable with. And I think that actual discomfort for me was what propelled me forward. And it became then a journey of, I think I spent an awful lot of time stuck and then sort of in blame. I was financially dependent on my husband, and I was going, I used to have this very sparkly career. I was in IT sales and law and all these things and traveled the world. So what do you do? I'm financially dependent on my husband. I'm looking after 3 kids. The idea of going back to work, it seems very piecemeal, and I don't know how you do that with 3 kids and whatever. So it really became getting comfortable with discomfort. And I talk about it now like building your challenge over comfort muscle. There was the discomfort of staying stuck was one option. And I lived there for probably way too long. And then a decision that I can't do that. I fast forwarded imagining what that would look like and then said, no, I'm going to take this discomfort, but make it work for me. And in a more interesting journey, and then just decided I was going to lean into being curious about, what might the answer to that question be? So what do you do? What would I like the answer to be? And then what am I prepared to risk to achieve that answer? And I think I didn't have like, what would you like to do? I'd like to be an author. I had no idea I was going to write a book. And I think that's a really important thing to know, is that just because you don't see, the answer very clearly, or this sharp outcome, in sharp focus, that should keep you stuck. I just decided I am going to exercise my curiosity and allow myself to be uncomfortable along the way. And that happened to lead to lots of different things, which ultimately led to, a book, one of many things it led to. But I couldn't see that from point one, the starting point.
Such an empowering reframe. As I think back to when I had to, or when I was answering those questions before as well, and well, what do you do? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mum. And but equally, before giving up work to do that, I almost felt guilty. You're almost in this position where you've got a really great career and you're a mum, but your kids are at after school club and you're just, feeding them dinner, putting them to bed, or you're at home and you're there for them all the time, but you feel like you don't have that sense of purpose. And I think, as you said there about that, you don't have to know exactly what it is you want to do, but I think having some form of purpose will support that, whatever that purpose may be. It could be volunteering, or it could be doing your garden, or it could be, just...
I think that's key. It doesn't have to, it's so different for everybody. And I think for, some people, absolutely staying at home and finding that outlet in volunteering is there enough. And I think there's a lot of comparisonitis of, oh, my enough isn't actually good enough. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Somebody else's success is not something that you have to aspire to. That's their version of their enough. And I think there's a lot of confusion around what's enough, because we don't self-define it. We have so much messaging externally, and a lot of loading with what we should want. It's okay to want what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And yeah, I think that comparisonitis, and you defining what that good enough is. And I support women with anxiety, as when I'm coaching, and I see that time and time again where they don't feel good enough because they're not meeting somebody else's standards. It's not actually they're good enough, as you said, and everybody has so many different lifestyles and different goals and different things going on in their lives. It's been possible to live somebody else's life. So I think, getting clear on your good enough, I think that's really, really powerful. So your little book of Good Enough sounds like something I think that we all need to have a read of and connect with. And I noticed that it is available on Amazon, and I can pop all the links and things so people can connect with that and go grab yourself a copy. But is it possible for you to share a little bit from that book, about the book, or any exercises that might support the listeners or watchers just in working out, what that sense of feeling good enough is?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very much an exercise focused book. It's a really short, compact book that gives you stuff to do. I think one of probably the most powerful exercises in it, which is like, seems really simple, but it is simple, but it's not easy. And it's called compiling this thing that I call Damn I'm Fabulous list. And lots of people say, here's my top 10 achievements or something. And I'm like, it just sounds like, a LinkedIn post or something, but sorry, LinkedIn. But it's about, it's so easy for us to be able to access in our minds what it is that we feel isn't good enough about us, that we don't do well, that is our failures. And that is, I'm sure your readers are very well educated on things like the negativity bias. That's just the way our mind works. So when we're looking to really improve that sense of self-worth, we need to retrain, this untrained mind that's like a naughty puppy. It'll just do what the hell it wants unless you rein it in. So it's about mining your memories, looking into the past and finding those things. It's like buried treasure. Somebody might give you a compliment and you're like, oh, no, stop. No, I didn't do anything. Particularly as women, we're really quick to disown achievement or anything that's really might bolster us, because it's been like, oh, that's a bit braggy, isn't it? Who does she think she is? So it really is to start looking back. And I tell you, sit down with a piece of paper. Don't do this on your computer, because you know you'll open another tab because it's hard.
Yeah.
And put away your phone. All of that, and be unavailable for a minimum of 20 minutes. Just give it that, and then sit down with this blank piece of paper and say, what am I good at? What have I achieved? What have I done that I'm proud of? What's a compliment that's been given to me? Think back to at work. Somebody said, you know, this thing about me, or I did that project, or I was with my child and they looked at me and they said this. You know, what are those moments that we cast away so casually that are really life's treasure? And it is an exercise to get them down on paper. And it will bring up a lot of discomfort, which is like, oh, this is just, you know, me blowing my own horn and just, you know, praising myself. And that's not really what one should do, is it? Yes, it is actually what one should do. And I tell people, if you're feeling like, I did all of this, I didn't just say you do it, I did all of this, and I sat with a piece of paper for a lot longer than 20 minutes going, you suck, I can't bloody think of anything, or I have one thing on it, and I go, well, that's pathetic. And my mind took over, you know, and sent me down a negative thought spiral. And so what I say to do is like, just watch the mind doing that, expect it to do that, and then come back to the work. And if you need to, call or text a trusted friend and say, hey, I'm doing this exercise. What do you like about me? What do I do well? What do you think? You know, get them to write almost like your letter of recommendation. And it's illuminating what they'll say, and then write it down. So I think that Damn I'm Fabulous list is kind of, if you want extra credit on this, get a minimum of 10 things. Extra credit, then type it up with your top 10, and then put a photograph, your favorite photograph of yourself looking at your most badass, and where you kind of say, you really like that photograph. You know, the one that you keep like as maybe your profile picture from 10 years old.
Returning to over and over the years.
You know, that one, put that on the top of the list, and then put it somewhere where you can see it. So that every day it's kind of like, yeah, you're a bit of a badass, or like, yeah, you're good. Because too much of the input is like, oh Christ, she's doing it, I could never do that. It's so many cues to feel crap about ourselves. You need to take ownership of that and say, oh, well, I'm going to own this big badass cue, and I'm going to see it every morning when I wake up. I'm going to see it like at the inside of my, you know, my agenda or whatever. You put it everywhere that you feel it's going to serve you, or take a photograph of it and have it on your phone. And look at it before you're going to do something that scares you or makes you uncomfortable, so that you really, because essentially what I do is I help powerful women remember just how powerful they are. And that starts with owning, you know, the treasure that you already possess. We always think that we have to get more to be worthy, and we've discarded or just forgotten about what already exists. So that is a really powerful exercise to remember you already have a whole load of stuff. You're just ignoring it. Let's look at it.
I love that.
Put it in one place.
Such a powerful exercise. And actually, now that you've said that, I'm doing something similar myself. I'm going through a period of ill health at the moment. So I'm not managing to work the hours I would normally work and do all the things I would normally do. And last week I started that just like a little achievement list. So each day I'm like, okay, I managed to, I don't know, today a client messaged and just said, you're awesome. And I was like, I'm going to put that on my little list today, you know, and just as you say, recognizing these positive things about ourselves, it can be so valuable to return to when you're feeling less than, just to power you up. And I actually made a photo album once of just thank you cards from people and bits from magazines and little things to, have a little reflect on when you self.
And I think it's that constant thing as well, where you keep then the running total And I learned this from like a boss when I was only 25 or 6. And he would send me, if I did good work, he would send me an email. Well, he'd send it to my boss and my boss's boss, and he'd copy me on it. And then he would write this kind of, she did this, blah, 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 or just blah, blah, wanted to highlight this work. And then he'd come to me and he said, you print that off now, and you start a file, and you have that file, like your whole professional life. And I was like, damn, I never would have thought of that. I was just kind of going, oh, that's nice.
Amazing.
Just a way of being. Yeah,
creating these positive pathways. So when you are working with women and, you know, kind of empowering women, what would you say is the main theme that comes up? Is it this not feeling good enough? Is there anything else that you kind of see more often than not with supporting women?
I think it at its core, it's this: I'm not good enough, and it has I'm an imposter syndrome. It has, I'm a fraud. It has, you know, I don't belong. And it persists at very high levels of performance. So I think that is the overarching theme, although people will come to me and call it something different. Like, I'm really struggling with these negative thoughts. I want to fix that. Or I'm preparing for this, you know, leadership role. I want to get a promotion. I want this higher level, but I'm not sure how to get there. And then you do a little bit of work and you're kind of going, oh, here we are. So it's you come at it at different areas. People come to you. It's like the gateway issue. And then they always do this work. It doesn't matter if somebody's named it, because it gets revealed very quickly. And I think it's that, you know, this lack of full sovereignty over the self, and until somebody can really own and like themselves and kind of gather in all who they are and use that to create and contribute in the world, they will always be, you know, living with this sort of feeling of I am less than. And when you feel like you're less than, you can't create what you're truly here to create, and when you're fully activating all of you. So I that is the theme. That is the theme. It's the theme in boundaries.
Powerful work. It's and as you say, I think, you know, you can see it. You feel like, I know from my personal experience, sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, I am good enough and I've got it. And then you move to a new next level or learn something new, and then you're like, you know, it comes back, I think, at different levels. But then once you've got the tools, I guess, to identify that and call it out before it takes over. I think we all experience it, don't we, at certain points.
And I think you just touched on something that's really important in the work too, because this is thought of it's once and done. And you touched on it earlier as well when you said, oh, and I had this, you know, all of the thank you cards together. It isn't like you do your, you know, damn, I'm fabulous list once. You kind of look at it and you kind of go, awesome, yeah, I am, and that you're done. Like you say, there's changes in life, and I think you really have to develop a toolkit and an ongoing practice that serves you as you up level. I think you up level quicker once you're in the work. You kind of integrate the work, so it becomes your operating system rather than something that you go back to, or you say, oh, where is that thing that Susi or Eimear was talking about that was so effective like a year ago? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. It would be great, wouldn't it, if we just dealt with these things once and then that was it?
It would be awesome. Or that you could pay somebody else to do it for you and just kind of say, can you be good enough for me? And then just kind of shine a light on me or something, and it magically happened. Yeah, like
that would, we'd be very rich women if we could do that for people.
We would, yeah. And we could, we could do it for so many more women so much more quickly if we could just, like, the whole world.
Love it.
Strong women. I love that vision.
Amazing. So you are going to be sharing a masterclass for me within our Be Free community, which I am very, very excited about. Which is all about boundaries. And I know, and probably this stems back yet again to that not feeling good enough and powerful enough, maybe. But yeah, can you tell me a bit more about you know, boundaries and why this kind of work is necessary?
Yeah, I think it's really vital. And often people come to me and they just say, oh, I just need to know how to say no and not feel guilty. And I'm going, okay, yeah, not feel guilty. Interesting. Because boundaries are so essential, because it is how you protect what is most precious to you. And when you think about the one resource that is most precious, it's like your time, which is, it's just that precious currency of your life. And so boundaries really at their most effective are there to protect who you are and what you want to create and contribute with your life. What is that most important work that you want to contribute to the world, and who do you want to be? So it's foundational because it involves understanding the answer to those questions. Who are you? What do you want to be about in this one wild and precious life of yours, which is how Mary Oliver describes it in that beautiful poem, A Summer's Day. And that so it really is connecting to that. It's particularly tricky territory for people who are people pleasers. And lots of people, if you ask them, are you a people pleaser? That's actually turn the people with their hands up and go, oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. And it's kind of like almost like resigned to it. It's who I am. And I'm like, no, it's what you do. But for a people pleaser, it really is, they're so used to having their own boundaries stepped over and stepping over other people's boundaries and over helping them and getting into other people's business, all under this strong sense of concern and compassion, but they are not honoring another person's boundaries or their own when they overhelp.
And that's so powerful. Sorry to interrupt you there, but that is such a powerful thing, I think, for people to recognize as people pleasers. You know, it's a lot of my clients who are anxious are people pleasers, and as you mentioned, there will kind of, you know, want to help everybody else and do everything for everybody else. And I never actually really thought about that as you know, breaking other people's boundaries and you know, looking at it that way. It's kind of creating this codependency kind of situation, isn't it? So yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. I was just like, wow, that's very, very...
It is like this kind of, so I get my worth from helping you and from being the problem solver and rescuing. I mean, this is just one form of it, and it like everything, it's kind of the spectrum to degree. But there are some people who maybe most spirits, like, my whole identity is based on you liking me for what I do for you.
Yeah.
And if I don't have that, then who am I? Where's my value? So that's why when I say, you know, boundaries protect this knowing who you are and what you want to be about. And often people who have very weak or very permeable boundaries that are just they move around a lot. They have a very unclear sense of self and of who they are and where their value comes from if it doesn't come from serving other people. Now, serving other people can be a big part of who you are. And there's nothing wrong of course there's nothing wrong with being a service focused, compassionate person. We just look for the balance and what is the cost and the why behind why we're doing that. And so I think boundaries is so many different areas. It's not just about saying no, it's about taking full ownership over who we are and full sovereignty over the self, and allowing other people to do the same. And it's particularly tricky when this other person doesn't want to do that. They want you to serve them. Yeah. And then you think you're being a nice person by helping them out. And in fact, what you are doing is you're allowing yourself to be manipulated, but you're allowing them to have, you know, very not clear boundaries either. You're allowing them to utilize you in a way, and it diminishes both of you. So there's a lot of bigger work in boundaries. I teach people the how-to of it, definitely. How do you deliver this communication to people? And it is tricky. There's lots of different relationship dynamics, and we're not taught how to do it. So it's really about befriending the no and seeing it in a different light, because it does carry a lot of tricky energy, the word no.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to work through this masterclass myself. You're speaking to me. Definitely, I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I might need this in my life. Amazing. So obviously you have so many incredible tools in your toolkit, but what do you personally love for you to support you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? What kind of things do you enjoy?
I do a lot, but I think the one thing that I come back to a lot is meditation, which I absolutely hated because it was hard and it was annoying, and I'm a bit like type A. So I was like, what's the outcome? How do we measure the success here? How effective is this tool? What do you mean I sit and... So it was like that for me. So if any of your listeners are like, meditation, I keep hearing that, I get you. It sucks. It sucks that so many people are right about this. I wanted them all to be wrong and it to be like way too out there on the woo-woo landscape for me. But it is the most effective tool that I have. And it took me a long time to integrate it. And I think the biggest thing for me in integrating it was coming across a teacher who you may have heard of, Sadhguru. So coming across Sadhguru a couple of years ago, and then having an online sort of live experience with him and joining that community. And so it really is one of the most powerful things I've done. It kind of allows me to zoom out from the mind and really to, inhabit that space between thought. And that's a very powerful place to be able to access, even if you are just using a calm up or something else. So I would say that's my favorite. And it's the one that as soon as I let it go, I notice that everything goes to crap relatively quickly. And then I'm like, damn it, it's the missing piece. I wish it weren't.
I know. I'm actually mid-running a 7-day meditation challenge for my community, just to try and get everybody back into that daily practice of doing that, because it literally, and I'm like, I know that you don't want to get up even 10 minutes
earlier.
Do it, people. But it is life-changing. And as I mentioned, I'm currently experiencing this period of ill health, and actually this afternoon before our podcast, I went and lay down and did a little chakra balancing meditation. And when I finished, I was like, wow, I feel so much better just allowing my body into that space of rest just for that brief moment. So yeah, meditation is life.
Yeah. And for anybody who's resistant, I was resistant. I am the anti-meditator who is now the meditator, and I live in Santa Fe in New Mexico, which is a very energetically sort of quite hippie, sort of powerful energy in the space. And I came in here, it's like, why is everyone talking about their chakras? You couldn't sit down for a meal with somebody and them talking about them balancing their chakras and the core of something, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? So yeah, it's a very rich journey for people, and it starts with that 10 minutes in the morning.
Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned, Sadhguru there, I think recognizing that there can also be humor and real life with meditation. It doesn't have to be, I think a lot of people have this perception that it's so super serious and you have to chant and om and, have a straight face and be super serious when you're meditating, when actually you can bring humor and life to it. And he does that so very well. And that's something I kind of bring to my meditation classes, whether people like it or not. I do like a little bit of a laugh. And yeah, just keeping it real, it doesn't have to be so super serious.
Yeah, you can always find your lane in your entry point into these kind of practices, and you'll find the right person who will make you not, and I'm sure many people find that in you, Susie, and will find it through the 7-day challenge and other offerings that you bring to them.
Amazing. Brilliant. So I podcast is called Be Free. This is one of my core, freedom is one of my core values. It's something that drives a lot of things I do to support people from feeling stuck and consumed into this more expansive space. And I just wondered, what does that mean to you? What makes you feel free?
Yeah, it's so funny because I have like my top values written everywhere. It's like right here on my laptop, and the top one, number one, is freedom.
Yay!
So definitely on my list too. And freedom means so many things for me, and I think an important thing in my work that I love to help people with is about creating a financial freedom, a freedom of abundance, and that's different levels for everybody as well. Again, with the comparisonitis, I think that the real core of freedom is choice, and building financial freedom builds an awful lot of choice into our lives, and particularly for women who have a different journey through life and experience the world differently than men. That's a very important component, but obviously not all. But from the point of view of accessing freedom just now, rather than building a freedom of financial abundance, or, I have this much free time, and that can be something that guides us, and that's why it's a value. But every day being able to tap into that value is, ideally it would be where I feel super free is if I were sitting on a beach in the morning, preferably San Diego, watching the surfers. Wow. And having a cup of coffee, which I've spent a couple of summers there, and walking down to the beach, and that is a very peaceful place. And that feels very freeing. You feel very connected to nature. You feel just that more silent time, and it can be almost meditative. So I look to access that in the mornings here, just taking that quiet time and tapping into just feeling of gratitude gives it to you as well. And remembering all that you have is very, very freeing. And I then look to harness that and take it, embody it as you go through your day. It doesn't have to be, achieved to be lived. It doesn't have, there are freedom goals, but freedom as a value is something that you live. And it doesn't matter what your outside circumstances are. You can access it in lots of different ways.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. I love that. A little vision of sitting watching surfers. I quite enjoy that. But in the northeast of Scotland, slightly chillier, but they do come out.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure you get good waves.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. So thank you so much. Eimear has, as I mentioned, has her masterclass within our Be Free community. I will pop the links to that within the show notes if you want to come check out her masterclass. I will also pop all of Eimear's links and things in the show notes. But what's the best way for people to further connect with you? I know obviously you mentioned your course as well. Do you want to tell people a bit about, I know probably every single person that listens to this is going to be like, I need her in my life. So how can they connect with you? And yeah.
Well, I'm probably most active on social media on Instagram, and that's Eimear Zone Coach. You can also find me on Facebook, Eimear Zone. Yeah. And in the links, they can connect with me too. And the Elegant No course will be opening up again in May. So I'm sure that Susi will drop a link for you to be able to make sure that you're advised as soon as that comes up. And that is really helping anybody who really wants to take action around boundaries and say, I need to know how to do these, take these steps so they can really begin to create those healthy boundaries in my life and be able to start living from a place where I'm fully respecting that, full sovereignty of the self, and, the relationships that I have with others, seeing them transform so that they're also healthy and respectful both ways.
Yeah, incredible, incredible. And I would say go check out Eimear on Instagram. I'm on a month off social media, but I am missing your reels. You do very good reels, Eimear.
Do like a good reel. I do like a bit. I do like a bit. And again, just just finishing off there, we talk about discomfort. I'm like a 52-year-old woman. What business do I have on reels? I don't give a damn. I do not give a damn. And I allowed myself to make some pretty crap reels. And then I started, and because I wanted to. So I would leave your listeners with saying, allow yourself to suck at something is a very powerful practice. I allow myself to suck at lots of stuff. I'm sure if you Google me, you'll find a lot of old stuff that sucks. And the newer stuff is a lot better. And it's only a lot better because I allowed myself to suck. So something, if you're really interested in something, allow yourself to be crap at it. That's the only way one day you'll be great at it.
Amazing. Yeah. So such valuable advice. And feel the fear and embrace it. So thank you so much for everything today. Everybody go connect with Eimear, give her a follow on Instagram, grab her book. I think, it's just, so much wisdom. Like literally felt like I was being coached on this call myself, taking it all in. So I'm sure listeners and watchers will feel the same.
So kind.
Super guiding us along the way. So thank you so much for today, and I can't wait to connect again in the future.
Thanks so much for having me, Susie, and for giving me this opportunity to share with your community. It's been so much fun.
Amazing. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye everyone.